Hi, welcome to this month's December Commissioner Corner. My name's Claire Wool. I'm chair of the Burlington School Board. I am thrilled when we're able to highlight Burlington public school students on this show. And today we have the Burlington City and Lake Semester Program students here who are going to talk about their fall semester that is wrapping up next week before winter break. So if I can ask you guys to go around and introduce yourself, tell me your name, what year you are, because BCL takes juniors and seniors, and what brought you to BCL for the fall semester. Lucy?
My name's Lucy. I'm a senior, and I joined BCL because my guidance counselors wanted me to do something that was more fun and interactive for my senior year.
My name's Harper. I'm a junior, and I joined BCL because I had it recommended to me by some close friends.
I'm Vera. I'm a senior. I did BCL because my brother did it, and I just knew it was a program I always wanted to take.
Very cool.
Hi, I'm Sam. I did BCL because I wanted a broader perspective on a lot of the issues here in Burlington.
Very cool.
Hi, my name is Jesse. I'm a senior, and I chose to do BCL because I think the program does a really good job with outreach. There's lots of events where they advertise, and it got me to join.
Very cool. Well, I loved hearing. This is BCL's 15th, I wouldn't say year, it's their program, their semester. So actually, is it 15 years? I got to check. No, because it's spring. It goes fall and spring. Okay, so we'll cut it in half. 7th year. It's probably 7th year. Thank you. And when students join, I know that we can go to the slides. We talk about accreditation. So you get credits for participating in BCL. Tell me what is the commitment? Do you go during the day, hours? Like Lucy, do you want to share how many days a week you go to BCL?
Yeah, it's 2 to 3 days a week, so it's just on blue days, and it's basically like a full day field trip.
Okay.
And you do a lot of interactive stuff around the community, and there's some smaller things like homework, like expos, which are the writing part of BCL, and you do inquiry projects where you ask open-ended questions and you get to present your learning in a short presentation to your class.
And then just technical, like everybody gets there themselves. And where are you going for BCL, Harper? Where does it take place?
It meets in the one community center, which is on Allen Street. We share the space with a lot of different programs, so it's kind of cool to walk in there and you might meet someone from Very Merry Theater, or, someone who works at the Family Room downtown, or not downtown, downstairs.
Yes.
Yeah, but we have 2 classroom spaces that we get to use, and it's just right inside that building.
And everybody gets there themselves.
That's right.
So, or city bus or walk or what have you. Okay, very cool. And you meet 2 to 3 days a week on blue days. The curriculum, like we said, you share. There's certain expectations of everything that happens. When we talk about what's covered in the curriculum, how is that decided, Sam?
Well, I think the great thing about BCL is that it's a really open-ended curriculum, and it changes year to year and semester to semester, basically based on what's going on in Burlington. And so this semester we focused a lot on some issues going on in Burlington currently. And top of mind are really sort of public safety and housing that we've thought about. And we've met with a lot of community leaders to sort of talk about those issues. And I think that's sort of a big difference between BCL and regular school. You have the ability to sort of change what you learn about based on what's actually going on in the community you live in.
And Vera, you said your older brother was part of it. Does it mirror what he learned, or like what Sam was saying? Like, do you remember things that he did versus what you've done this semester?
I don't know exactly what Hank did in his semester, but I do know that each semester varies on what they do, and I think that's really cool. I think that the opportunities you get to have each semester is so limitless, and I think that's really awesome, and I know that's why Hank loved it, and that's why I like it.
And I know we've had a common thread. We had Dove Stucker, who is consistently at BCL as one of the original teachers. I know Sina Daly created it, as well as, oh my gosh, Mr. McConville was there, and he's back at BHS. So I know that we have different faculty members that are assigned to BCL. And so there is a thread and a tie to, they were BHS teachers, still are BHS teachers, and I know that it's supported by the high school as well, obviously. And it's only for BHS students currently? Okay, great. Jesse, tell me about the workload. I know that you go on field trips and it's outside exploring, but when you think about what you're actually, is there writing involved? Is there reading involved? What would you say the strengths of things that you learn to do academic-wise?
Well, that's a great question. I think it's split into two major parts. There's kind of the in-class during the day portion. We do a lot of journaling, a lot of discussion, a lot of reflection. And then we have some homework, which is two major parts. We have the expos, where we reflect on what we've done, we write, we make connections, and we do the inquiry projects, where you kind of ask a question about the community, and you go and you have a new experience, and then you present to the class on what you found.
If you're shy, how can you manage in BCL, or does it bring out that public speaking strength or learning, Lucy?
I think there's definitely some people who talk a little bit less, but I think everyone's very involved. It's a very, community-based program, I think, which is one of our key values is community. And I think even if you are shy, it's a space where everyone is free to talk and knows that everyone will be accepting of whatever they have to say.
And I forgot to ask, do you know, Harper, how many students are in each cohort, or roughly?
Yeah, I think that ours has, 22, if I'm not
Okay.
mistaken, or
Yep.
21, roughly around there. That's kind of what we started the semester with, and I think we're around 20.
That's great. Well, that's a great diverse group, and it's made up of juniors and seniors.
Yeah.
And is it split, or are there more seniors, or?
I think there's more seniors this year.
Yeah, and I remember people, it was sought after to get into, you apply, and again, how they sift it out, because they do want the mix of both, so that people can, but I know junior year tends to be a little more rigorous academically, so students look towards BCL for senior year. All right, let's get into what you've actually done. Vera, tell me, where is this happening?
So this first picture I actually took. This is on a sailboat. We went down to the sailing center for a day when we learned about the waterfront. And we split into random groups, which was, I think, actually a great opportunity to get to know everyone in our group, because this was somewhat in the beginning of the semester. Mm-hmm. And then we went sailing for like an hour and 30 minutes, and it was just a great opportunity to connect, and it was super fun.
And I know we never take for granted or assume that everyone has been on the water. Even though we live on this incredible lake, there are a handful of students. I know that we work with the Sailing Center, as well as Leahy Eco Science Center, to get students on the water. And when we return to our new campus next year, we used to teach canoeing on Lake Champlain and getting students out on the lake. So, I mean, having that opportunity to meet students, be on a vessel on the water, so amazing, and life jackets in hand. All right, where is this? I can imagine it's Harper, our favorite place on earth.
Yes, this is at Shelburne Farms, a place that we all, I feel like, know and love. I definitely grew up going there a lot more in elementary school, so it's
Yes.
definitely a really awesome experience to get to come back and see it with kind of a new lens as an older person.
There you are, very cool. And they're an incredible partnership, Shelburne Farms, and have been since the inception. I know Megan Kemp, as well as Alec Webb over there, value this learning program that we have here at BHS and BCL. All right, let's look at Vera, another opportunity. I know that we where is this? Which school of ours at elementary school?
This is at Sustainability Academy, and we were in this photo. We were with the kindergarteners, and we were reading them books. And my favorite experience from this was reading a book and then saying another one, and then I read another one, and then another, and then another. And then we ended up drawing, and then we read another book. It was a lot of books.
Well, I know that in elementary school, I'm not sure if every elementary school here in the city of Burlington, of which we have many, fifth graders used to be book buddies with kindergartners. And I know how impactful that was if you were fortunate enough to be a kindergartner having a book buddy, that relationship or, seeing that fifth grader was like seeing a movie star, and that connection where kids would be, that was my book buddy. And to go back, I mean, when is the last time any of you have read to a kindergarten? Is this, for a first, thinking from fifth grade, were there any times? So even when we talk about something that might not seem like a big deal to a high schooler, how impactful it is for our sustainability students, IEA, Champlain, Edmonds, Hunt, Fill-In, CP Smith, all those students. I know that when I spoke to Dove, that there was that thought of, wow, BCL students can, visit these schools and be role models to, the importance of reading and literacy, and hearing that you don't have to stop at one book and that it's constantly, can we read another one? So thanks for being role models to those students. I know that's incredibly impactful, and SA was so super happy. All right, what else did we look at? What is this, Sam?
Yeah, so this picture with myself in it is at City Hall, and we actually got to go to City Hall a bunch of different times for many different reasons, but this is when we worked with the planning department here in Burlington to sort of consult on some issues around planning and what, our generation wants the future of Burlington to look like. And so it was a really great opportunity. We sort of divided up by neighborhoods, by where we lived, and looked at what was working in our neighborhood, but also maybe what wasn't working in our neighborhood. And we got to really give our ideas to the people at the planning department in Burlington, and they truly took them into consideration. Right, the maps that we drew on, they took, and as they sort of move forward in the planning process, they're going to take that information into account, which is definitely really cool to be able to give that sort of input.
I mean, have any of you, or are you on any committees at school or advisory, student government, or clubs where your voice, you tend to give your voice to something? Is there anything that you can think of, or is this a first for you? Lucy, is this a first for you to give feedback?
For me it is,
Yep.
but I know for others there's a lot of programs that others are a part of, like student government and other things.
And you felt like your voice was heard in this process? I saw you in the
Yeah.
picture. Yeah?
Yeah, the second picture was when we were discussing the boathouse and what that's going to look like. And yeah, I think everyone had very different points of view on what we think should be done with the boathouse. And Aaron Moreau, who's
Yes.
the waterfront leader or whatever, he definitely took our opinions into account with taking our maps and everything.
I can only imagine. And I think when I asked that question, because of our reputation at BCL is students that are engaged, they're taking it seriously. You're not, the city officials, whether it's the mayor, city councilors, department heads, they're preparing for your visit. So the work that they're taking into consideration so that you're there and you're not bored, or that you are engaged, shows the respect factor that your voice does matter. And a lot of the times as school board members, if we make a decision and we're interested, whether we're adding something or potentially reducing something, or something comes across our board to make a decision, student voice is incredibly impactful. You know that from examples, if we're going to make a decision at the district level and students don't like it, they're going to show up and say, you really shouldn't eliminate this program, or you really, we want to have this at our school, and that it takes, whether it's volunteers, whether it's city officials who are asking for that input, how valuable it is. So it's nice to hear that you were respected, they were prepared, they had interesting things, because the waterfront, that's a very cool piece that all of us have been a part of. And you realize as young adults, and I do as a parent and a citizen of Burlington, that our waterfront is as beautiful as it is because of the thoughtfulness and protection. It could be, a line of condos, all in front that there potentially could be no access to the water, and yet there's so much open space that when I think of running the marathon or being down there for events, that you have full access and view of there. So what was specific about the boathouse, Jesse, what were they asking about? And it's nice to hear that everyone wasn't like, yeah, go for that one idea. What was the question they asked?
It was a new issue that was brought to my attention, is that the boathouse, which has long been such a staple of postcards and pictures for Burlington, is sinking. Slowly, I think there's many years left in its lifespan, but eventually it will kind of not be floating anymore. And it's an old barge that we got from Galveston, Texas, and then we kind of built up the building on it, but we were consulting on what the future of the boathouse could be. Right, it's a public piece of property that anyone in the city can use, but if it's sinking, if it's underwater, there needs to be a new plan for its future.
Very interesting. All right, so City Hall, City Department, Erin Monroe, any other city issues that BCL, was that the main focus of your engagement with the city planning this semester?
Well, we also
housing.
Housing, yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Hello. That's not more. Well, yes, I would say it's more important than the boathouse. So let's talk about housing. Vera, I know you just took a sip, but tell me what was the.
So we met a lot with at City Hall about City Hall Park. It was a big topic in Burlington. We talked a lot about the housing crisis and affordable housing, and how oftentimes, there's college students, there's UVM, and UVM's not providing enough housing for the students who are upperclassmen, and how renters are just able to drive up price and drive people out. And then we talked about how it's really difficult for people who are experiencing homelessness to get out of that, because there's not available housing, and if there is, it's taken.
Mm-hmm. Well, hearing your voice is super important. I know when we first moved down to Macy's temporarily, we met often with City Hall just to talk about the students' impact. I mean, Church Street was thrilled to have Macy's and students, whether it was on lunch break or for the shops, and to welcome us. And I remember that all the Church Street vendors sent our teachers coupons to participate. And now, I would say in the 5 years that we've been down there, the safety concerns have risen, and your voice and what you think. We've spent a lot of money and efforts, most importantly with City Hall, to make that a space that is user friendly, and I know it's been the top of discussion at City Council as well, in managing the safety of not just students but families throughout the city, and visitors. Tourism being our #1 industry here in Vermont to attract people to make revenue for our state. Well, that's great. I mean, when you spoke about the safety and housing, who were you working with at the city, Sam?
Well, we actually, when we first talked about housing, we did a round table discussion where we split into groups and we talked to many different, sort of stakeholders in the housing conversation here in Burlington. We talked to someone from CVOEO, we talked to someone from the Champlain Housing Trust, and we also talked to Sarah Russell, she actually just moved on from her job, but she was formerly the Special Assistant to End Homelessness here in Burlington. Yeah. And we were able to really gain a lot of insight on a lot of the issues that are really important when it comes to housing, thinking about housing costs, how many rental units are available in Burlington, who has access to those units, how affordable they are, where are we building new units, are those new units affordable? And these were all questions that we asked, and we were able to, sort of gain insight from all these different community partners about this issue right here in Burlington.
And our #1 goal in the state of Vermont is to attract young citizens to move here or stay here and live here. So we are absolutely hyper vigilant on asking those questions and making sure it is affordable. To your point, Vera, with the university, the city has a memorandum with UVM about how much housing they have to provide students, and I know that definitely drives up the cost. So Did you learn overall, everybody, just to show of hands, when you understood the housing crisis, were you familiar with what makes the housing crisis and why things are expensive? Did everyone feel like they had talked about it within their family, and people had either complained about how expensive it is if you knew someone renting? So that is so great to hear your opinions and voice, because ultimately when you think of whether you're going off to school or post-secondary plans, or you're going into the work field, many families are saying, like, stay at home. You know, you've got to utilize the fact that, you know, you can live at home and not necessarily be rent-free, but at least give your family some rent money, because it is that expensive to live here. So I'm glad that that was a topic, and that your class was aware of that going into the future, to be able to provide that. All right. The fun stuff. Thank you for going over those issues. What are we doing here? Is this collaborative games that we do and get together, Harper?
So I think I'll address the photo on our right.
Yes.
That was taken from when we went to the surf club, which was one of our kind of like fun blocks,
Yes.
which is something that BCL does every other week, sometimes like, you know, every week. It kind of depends. But that day at the surf club, I think, was one of my favorite days of BCL so far. We got there, we got to do some yoga, we did some reflection about like the 4 bodies and being mindful, and then really the rest of the day was just so fun. It was such a great, you know, team building activity. I felt like I really got to connect with all of my classmates on like a much deeper level. We got to go paddle boarding. It was nice enough outside to go swimming. Like, it was just such an amazing experience.
Oh, I love that. I love hearing that. And shout out to Rox and Russ Scully, who are former BHS parents, alumni, Baxter and AJ, because it is such a gift to be able to, one, that they preserve that land for the surf club, and they always invite us back, and BCL, and being able to do those things. And again, like your point, I remember speaking to actually someone in your class who had never done yoga before. And so a first time for everything. You think most people have stretched or been afforded that opportunity, but great to hear that. All right, anything else on the art project? Lucy, tell us about your artist in residence for this semester.
Yeah, so our artist is Christian Breivik, and he makes zines. That's like what he's known for.
Okay.
And I think he's been very influential on our class and what we decided to do for our art project and why we decided to do it. And we did a lot of things with him. We made zines with him about insects and animals. And we did some stenciled posters on activism, and we made a whole group banner of Burlington, and we each got to put a little circle on it with one part of Burlington that really we appreciate about it.
I have to say, what is a zine?
Yeah, it's like a mini magazine.
Very cool. Like a graphic. So, okay. You know, I learned this about once Martin Luther King. Like, he used to make little comics. Did you? I mean, just like, you know, and thinking of that back in even the graphic novels in middle school when you were introduced to that and how kids would read them in a day. So it's great. I did not know that that was what he was known for. So thank you. And I remember once in middle school, my children, one of the things in humanities was to go around Burlington and write down all the bumper stickers that were on cars and activism. And I remember thinking, this is a good state to do that. So what were some of the things, Vera, that when we talk about activism and artwork that he highlighted or that students brought up? Is that something that you worked on?
Yeah, a lot of our art, it's kind of, I mean, obviously it's a wide range. Like, if you come to our art show, you'll see.
Yes,
but
we will.
Everyone got to pick a topic that they want to make art about, and I'm not going to spoil mine, but
And
I
on
like
what medium is it? On canvas or on?
Well, I made a stencil.
Okay.
So I made a bunch of posters, and you'll see.
Great.
But I think that it's a really like cool insight of what like people are interested and just what like lights that fire for them.
And Jesse, do you feel that BCL it complements the program, the art integration that everybody can relate to, and that that medium is really important and critical to BCL?
Yeah, I totally do. we started to do more art towards the back end of the semester here, and it's been really cool to kind of put our learning into art here and use the first half of the semester's learning and kind of produce it into these products of activism and change. So yeah, I totally think it complements BCL.
Oh, that's great. I love hearing that because I do too. And I think the things that BCL programs and graduates have contributed in and around the city are impactful. And I do think that at your age, juniors and seniors, not everyone sometimes has an elective to take one of our great art classes at BHS, so that you get this opportunity to, one, obviously, whether it's a mural artist, an artist that you've had, or a printmaking. I remember students doing, like you said, stickers and stencils, but in different formats. All right, so the takeaway, when we think about going into next January, and what are you going to miss the most, Lucy, about BCL?
I think the community. A lot of the people I knew but didn't have a good, a tight relationship with, and I think that being a part of BCL really gave me a sense of place in the Burlington community and in the BHS community, and I think that was very influential on my semester.
And Harper, what about a favorite educator or moment that you learned, or an aha moment for you at BCL? It doesn't have to be one or what you liked.
I think that one of my aha moments was when we went down to the Intervale with BCL. It was somewhere that I had never been before, and actually I had kind of like a closed mindset going into it. I was a little bit pessimistic. I was like, oh, is this really Burlington? Whatever. I just was pretty negative about it. And then we had interactions with community members there that just totally opened my eyes and made me really see it for the wonderful place that it was, and it just kind of just changed my view on how I think about things to this day. So it was really just a really pivotal moment for me.
Awesome. Vera, any connection with someone that you didn't know before you know, now you know?
Yeah, for my first inquiry project, I actually, we get to do stuff that we are interested in, and I was really interested in sustainable fashion. So I went down to the sandbox, and I just talked to people, and I was just meeting left and right, and I feel like I made a good connection with some of the workers there and the founders and all the community partners that we meet in BCL. You'll recognize them, they'll recognize you. I think it's a big part.
That was my next, Sam, community, anything. I know your family is heavily involved in the community and has been. What is your takeaway as far as what a moment that that resonates with you in BCL?
Yeah, that's a good question, because I do have I feel like I have a good amount of experience involving myself in the community, but I think the interesting part of BCL for me was taking in different perspectives on issues that maybe I had felt a certain way before. And then I heard from a community partner or someone who was specifically affected by a given issue, and it changed my mind, or it broadened my perspective, and so that was really interesting.
Very cool. All right, shout out to what's happening next week, Jesse. You're going to be my voice.
On Wednesday, December 13th at 11:30 a.m., we'll be holding an Art in Action event at the SEBA Center in the South End on Pine Street. It's the former Arts Riot building. I think many of you may know it, and we're inviting people from all around to come and see our art and see our work and see the culmination of BCL 15.
I think he could be on a news anchor. That was fantastic. Thank you so much. And tell me, any aha moments that you have, or don't want to divulge that you didn't get a chance, that you really enjoyed?
Well, I think it's really been the community connections we've forged, and I think there's two kinds of community connections. There's the in-class community, right? I've gotten to make new friendships, new connections, increase the strength of old ones, and then we've also gotten to create new connections in the community of Burlington. For example, I was just at the Planning Commission meeting a few nights ago for one of my inquiry projects, and I recognized Erin Malone, the owner of Momo's Market, which is a connection I created during BCL. And it's just been really cool to have moments like those.
Agreed. All right. Thank you so much, BCL. Fall semester 25. I cannot wait to be there next week as you highlight and showcase your work. Thank you so much for taking your time on a Friday night to be with us and share all that you've learned. A big shout out to all of you and to the rest of your classmates. Thank you so much.